Is your concerns?
I think a lot of good ground was covered.
Jimmy Altieri. In the grand scheme of The Sopranos, he might seem like a footnote, a loudmouth capo with a quick temper, a flashy suit, and not nearly enough screen time. But his sudden and brutal exit from the show, capped off by a rat stuffed in his mouth,
Fucking punk-ass pieces of shit.
raised a question that's still being debated by fans decades later. Was Jimmy Altieri really a rat? Or did he die for someone else's crime? Let's take a deep dive. Jimmy Altieri was a capo in the DiMeo crime family, running his own crew mostly out of Manhattan. He wasn't exactly a strategic mastermind, more of an old-school wise guy, flashy, talkative, eager to be seen. In a world where silence and subtlety are virtues, Jimmy was the opposite, and that, in part, is where his trouble began. In Season 1, we first see Jimmy in meetings with Tony Soprano and the other capos, usually throwing his weight around, trying to stay relevant. He never seemed like a central player, but he wasn't a nobody either. He had rank, reputation, and real estate. He was part of the machine. That all changed after the FBI raided his social club.
FBI, nobody move! Hey!
You believe this shit?
Federal agents busted into his Manhattan hangout and discovered a stash of illegal firearms. Jimmy, along with Salvatore Big Pussy Bonpensiero, was taken into custody. Both of them, potentially facing serious time. But here's where things start to look strange. Very quickly, suspiciously quickly, Jimmy is released. No charges, no trial, no explanation. He's just out, walking around like nothing happened. And in the mob, that's a red flag. Nobody walks away from a federal gun charge unless they're giving something up in return. Tony and his crew notice. The whispers begin. Now, Tony already has an informant problem. At this point, he's been told by Detective Vin Makazian that someone in his inner circle is talking to the feds. Makazian specifically points the finger at Big Pussy.
What about him? He's wired for sound.
What?
But when Jimmy shows up out of nowhere, literally at Tony's house, asking odd questions and pushing for details about recent heists, Tony starts to rethink things. Jimmy starts asking about the Colombian drug dealers that Tony and his crew robbed, something he shouldn't know anything about.
What are you gonna do about the Colombian money?
And he's pushing for details fast. It's not just nosy, it's suspicious. Tony, ever the cautious operator, starts wondering, did Makazian get it wrong? Was the rat not Big Pussy, but Jimmy? Then, at a sit-down with the other capos, Jimmy makes another bizarre move. He brings up old grievances, cases that had already been settled. He seems to be trying to reopen conflicts, stirring things up. It feels forced, unnatural, like he's fishing for information. The other capos take notice. It's one of those moments in The Sopranos where everyone in the room feels something's off, but nobody says it out loud. Here's another strange detail. Jimmy displays knowledge of FBI tactics. At one point, he casually talks about how the feds can lift fingerprints from cash using powder. Now, this is a guy who isn't exactly known for his criminal brilliance. So where is he getting this forensic knowledge from? That kind of detail usually comes from spending time around law enforcement or being coached. Eventually, Tony decides it's time to act. Christopher Moltisanti lures Jimmy to a hotel room under the pretense of making money. Jimmy shows up, laughing, cracking jokes, completely unaware of what's about to happen. Silvio Dante steps out, gun in hand. One shot to the head. Jimmy's gone.
Fucking punk-ass piece of shit. Would you forget our captain?
And just to send a message, they stuff a rat in his mouth. In mob language, that's the loudest possible accusation. But here's the thing. Even after all of this, there's no definitive proof that Jimmy ever cooperated with the FBI. We, the audience, never see him meeting with agents. There are no surveillance tapes, no confidential informant records, nothing. Compare that to Big Pussy, whose status as a rat is confirmed over multiple episodes. We see his guilt, we see his meetings with Agent Skip Lipari.
Does that go on my record?
We even see him wearing a wire.
Oh, fuck with you.
With Jimmy? Nothing. No evidence. Just suspicion. Even the FBI, who we see plenty of over the course of the series, never refers to Jimmy as an informant. In fact, there's a key scene later on where Agent Lipari tells Big Pussy, "Any suspicion of you died with Jimmy Altieri." That line hits hard. It implies that Jimmy's death satisfied the mob's paranoia, but it doesn't confirm that he was actually guilty. It just means that the heat came off Pussy, at least for a while. So if Jimmy wasn't a rat, Why did he act the way he did? Some fans argue that he was simply clueless, that he was trying to get back in the loop after being released, and his pushy behavior was just classic Jimmy. Loud, intrusive, tone-deaf. Maybe he wasn't asking about heists to report them. Maybe he just wanted to sound like he knew what was going on. Others think Tony needed a scapegoat. He was getting pressure from every direction. Family, feds, friends, and couldn't afford to let a rat slip through the cracks. Killing Jimmy bought him time. It bought him trust. And it shifted attention away from Big Pussy, who Tony couldn't bring himself to believe was betraying him. At least, not yet. This theory is supported by the idea that Jimmy was simply unlucky. In the mob, perception is everything. If people think you're a rat, you might as well be one. Doesn't matter if it's true. Suspicion alone can get you killed, and in Jimmy's case, his timing, his behavior, and his bad instincts were enough to sign his death warrant. And that's the brilliance of The Sopranos. It's not about black and white. It's about the murky gray. Jimmy Altieri might have been a rat, or he might have been an idiot. Maybe both. Maybe neither. But once that rat hit his mouth, it didn't matter anymore. He was guilty in the only court that mattered, the court of Tony Soprano. So, was Jimmy Altieri really a rat? Maybe. Probably. But not definitely. And in The Sopranos, that's as close as we ever get to the truth.